All right, welcome everybody to this very special edition of Unfinished Business, where we usually will do the very special episode where we focus on a completely singular film or television show. I am your host for today, Andre Joseph of AJ Epyx Productions, and as always, our master overlord, Mr. Jeff Gallashaw.
Oh, you could just call me Overlord. Hi, folks.
So today last time we talked about Karate Kid Part 3. If you haven't seen that episode, it's right up on YouTube. Today we're going to go with a very obscure 90s film that's actually been getting a lot of play on cable lately. It is a 1992 Jonathan Kaplan thriller called Unlawful Entry, starring Kurt Russell, Madeline Stowe, and Ray Liotta. And just to sum it up for all you millennials who've never heard of this movie, you have Kurt Russell and Madeline Stowe playing this suburban LA couple who have their house broken into by an intruder. And Ray Liotta, alongside his partner, played by Roger E. Mosley, better known as TC from Magnum PI, they play the LAPD cops that are called onto the scene. Liotta kind of takes a liking to the couple, so he decides he's going to go and get the best security in the house to keep them protected, safe. And he likes Kurt Russell so much, he's like, hey, look, I'll take you on a ride along, so you can see how cops actually work. And during that ride along, they find the intruder in a crack house. And there's a part in the beginning when they're having their conversation where Kurt Russell's saying how if he got the guy, he would beat the holy crap out of him. But then when it actually physically happens, he's like, well, wait, I was just spitballing. I am not actually really wanting to beat this guy up. And then Liotta basically goes Rodney King on this guy. And then Kurt Russell wants nothing to do with him. He just wants to get on with his life. But Liotta will not let go of the situation. He keeps trying to weave his way into Kurt Russell's life because he gets to a place where he is so smitten with his wife that he's trying to tell Kurt, like, you don't deserve her. You're not tough enough to protect her. And starts to, in a Fatal Attraction way, screw up his life so he can kind of make the move on her. And then that's when the movie gets creepy. So this was one of many knockoffs of Fatal Attraction in the late 80s and early 90s. The reason I bring this film up is because I watched it a couple months ago, and look, there's nothing inherently original about it. Yoda's the creepy guy. Kurt Russell is actually, he's playing against type. Usually he plays mostly very radical kind of characters, whether it's Snake Plissken or McCready from The Thing, or somebody that's kind of like backwoods type of dude. And here he's like a yuppie in 90s Los Angeles, a role that Kevin Costner and Jeff Bridges could have played in their sleep. But I'm more fascinated with Liotta, and obviously he's the real star of the picture because he's so creepy to the point where, like, I'm more invested in wanting to know, what is this guy's deal? What made him go so crazy? Why is he so smitten with the wife? Other than the fact that Madeline Stowe is a very attractive woman, but there feels like there's something more there. And I've even asked cop friends of mine, why do you think this guy was crazy? And they couldn't even tell me why. So it's just an interesting film where you have like a duality play between him and Russell, where he's like, he wants to be more like him, but Russell has to be more tough enough if he's going to protect his wife. It's interesting in that sense, but it is 90s Hollywood, especially in that period. Jeff, what are your thoughts on Unlawful Entry?
Well, I know this might come off as misogynistic, but Madeline Stowe is hot throughout this movie.
Yeah, still hot.
Exactly. And that's the only part of the film where I'm like, I can understand Ray Liotta's, attraction. Not, maybe not the going crazy part, but, I can see it. But here's my thing. Like you said, I like that Kurt Russell's playing against type as a yuppie, so that's a little different for him. But I was like, this movie, playing it now comes at a perfect time if you want to villainize cops, as, a lot of people feel. cops are all dirty, because I'm like, this is the ultimate dirty cop movie. And secretly, this is probably how they all are. But I was like, first of all, they allude to him having psychological problems in the past. And I'm like, is that why you gave him the old black man as a partner? So you knew his days were numbered. So I'm just like, damn. Even though Roger E. Mosley still looked like he kick everybody's ass in the movie. Then you have weird scenes, like it became a porno a little, because like, oh, I'm so obsessed with Madeline Stowe, I'm gonna have sex with this hooker in my car. Like, what? It was like, is this just for more TNA other than Madeline Stowe? The movie, okay, first of all, I hated the stupid thing with the code. I mean, I know it plays an integral plot point, but pyramid as the password, I was like, this is stupid. Yeah. It's like, oh, again, it's 90s cliche. Even but as you're watching it, you're even like, oh, like, really, guys, you went there. It's a popcorn movie made for an audience. You're going to be like, yeah, that's stupid, but at least this is entertaining. I mean, love the house, and but at no point were you like, yeah, I believe this. I can see that happening, and I'm just like, maybe because I've seen so many movies after it like this, because unfortunately, this movie came out when I was 14. I was not quite the movie buff I am now. So these movies bypassed me by until later when I saw them on like HBO or on home video. So it's like this, Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Pacific Heights. These all came out around the same time. And unfortunately, though this one was a hit, they're all in my mind kind of a little interchangeable, even if, in this movie, the villain was a woman, killer nanny. This one, single white female, was a stalker who wanted to emulate the same life, but it's still essentially the same. The only thing that I think, and they're all sexually based, except for Pacific Heights. That was kind of like, clean-ish. And I still never got his character in that, but that's another show. But for this one, I was just like watching it, and like you said, right, it's sort of like what we discussed before with the little things. This is a movie where the villain is the most interesting character in the whole movie. Problem is, we don't know this villain's origin story, which is good, in a way of keeping it a mystery, but it feels like a cheat, because this ain't Hitchcock and this ain't The Birds. We need a reason. Other than because Madeline Stowe's so hot, or I thought I had friends, then you guys left me, And I'm like,
that's why I'm a little bit like oddly obsessed with it, because something like, say, Fatal Attraction, you get Glenn Close's backstory that she was abused as a child by her father, and that's why she's like crazy obsessed with Michael Douglas, and that's fine. They handled that really well. Here it's like, okay, you give Kurt Russell this whole backstory where he had a club in Arizona and he drove some guy who had drugs on him and he got popped. And then Liotta ends up using that on him when he tries to set him up for drug possession in his house. And yeah, I mean, that makes Russell's character have a little bit more dimension than just, a guy being stalked. And the same thing with Madeline Stowe, that she worked in the guy's club and that's how they got together, but they weren't really like LA people. They're from out of town. So that's why it was so easy for them to bring Liotta into their lives. But Liotta, I feel like I wanted to know more. Like, he tells a story about how he got shot on the job and shows the scar to Madeline Stowe, but then when he's with the hooker, tells her like a completely different story. So I'm just wondering, like, was this somebody that maybe he saw his parents beating up each other as children and was more protective of his mother than the father, and not the father was weak? Was he abused? What, did he have some incident on the job that made him wacky? Like, I would want, if Ray Liotta's watching this, if Jonathan Kaplan's watching this, please email me or message me on Instagram or Twitter, because I'd like to know more backstory. Like, what were you guys talking about in rehearsal when you were deciding on how to make this guy crazy? And funny enough, I know, like, they said Charlie Sheen and Mel Gibson were among the actors they considered. I think even Gary Sinise, before he blew up, were all considered for that part. And this was like Liotta's second film after Goodfellas, like when he really blew up
his
then.
next movie.
Yeah, so again, I mean, there's something there, and it may even be more closer. I'm just spitballing here, but he may be more closer to Gary Sinise or Ransom, where you don't understand why he went after Mel Gibson's son. Like, what drove him to do it, other than the fact that he pays people all the time to get his problems away. But there's sort of like, I don't know, you're on the job, you're protecting the everyday people, but you go back to your shitty life and it's just shitty. So he looks at this couple and says, I want to be Kurt Russell. I want the wife. I want the house. I want to live in the suburbs. I may even want to quit my job, because if you notice at the end, while he thinks he has Kurt Russell in jail, he goes to the house and he's dressed up in a way that looks similar to Kurt Russell. Like he's cooking for her and stuff, like, oh, now I'm going to be your perfect boyfriend. So there's something going on there that every time I watch it, I'm trying to pick up on those nuances.
Well, maybe it's he doesn't know how to fit into the world, so he's going to dress up, and try to, emulate Kurt Russell, sort of like, I guess, like maybe this is Superman, how he sees human, and that's Clark Kent. So he dresses up, except, Ray Liotta's not exactly Superman. But also the thing I find interesting yet somewhat strange about the film is that even when Kurt Russell tries to introduce Ray Liotta around to his friends and his crowd, Ray Liotta kind of off-puts everyone somewhat, even though, he's just being naturally him. And I think that's really maybe the first sign of Kurt Russell and Madeline Stowe's character realizing, wait, maybe he's not as cool as we think he is. So it essentially has this high school mentality, like, man, we brought you into the cool group and then you ended up being disappointing. Now we're cutting you off. And he's like, no, I like the power I had when I was with you guys. So essentially it's like the whole thing is he wants to be back in the cool group, but he doesn't want Kurt Russell because he blames everything on Kurt Russell. And it's like, Madeline Stowe liked me, but, you pushed me out. You knew she was in love with me. And it's just like, okay, it's just getting into this weird, mentality. But I mean, the film is silly. It has its moments. It seems like it's trying to dig deeper. I don't know if it was the studio or Kaplan, even though nobody said anything bad about each other. But it just seems like maybe there was stuff that was deeper there that they couldn't explore because they had to keep it with, a narrative that is more entertaining for the audience than a character movie. Like, they could have had the little things here when we're dealing with characters. They were like, no, we need narrative in this story to keep moving. So,
but I feel like Jonathan Kaplan is the kind of director, if you watch Over the Edge, The Accused, he can bring subtlety to add to a backstory or a setup for something much bigger later. Like when I watched The Accused, now that's a difficult movie to watch, and I'm not going to keep bringing up what that's about, but let's just say all you have to do is just watch the one scene when Jodie Foster is brought into the office. She's told to wait outside. And while she's waiting outside, she's hearing the receptionist on the typewriter. And the typewriter sounds like the pinball machine that she gets raped on. And so she puts on her headphones so she doesn't hear it. That subtlety, that is directing. Where was that in this film to add more nuances to the backstory of Ray Liotta's character, other than the fact that he's just obsessed with Madeline Stowe? I want to know more.
Well, again, I think it goes back to
Truck Turner.
But I'm just saying, I think in this movie, this was more, look, The Accused critically acclaimed. Over the Edge critically acclaimed. This is later in his career, right before Bad Girls. So
Project X.
Look, less said about that, the better. That was probably his first.
On that movie.
That was his first sellout role, man, or his first sellout directing job. He was like, you know what? Let me make a movie about Monkey and Matthew Broderick.
Ferris Bueller.
Hey, Helen Hunt. So it still didn't work. But I remember it being very highly advertised at the time. But with this is, to me, a paycheck job. He knew what type of movie he was doing. Maybe he's the one who brought that subtlety out of Ray Liotta's performance, from just being raving madman to giving the little nuances. Maybe that's his subtlety that Kaplan brought to the movie, out of everything, But, I mean, that and love of nudity. But, it kind of, Ray Liotta's writing Goodfellas, but this also worked for him, but also worked against him, because it was like, after this, psychopathic villains, let's go. But then again, that's how he started his career, with Something Wild. But even that was a little more nuanced. This was just full on, like, hey, I'm crazy. Let's get this going. Which, in a way, kind of, I know this is a low blow, but between this and Hubie Halloween, how has he not portrayed a comic book villain yet? Because he has the energy, he has the look, and so I'm just like, unless you want to consider, what was that movie with Steve Carell and Tina Fey, where he played the villain in that?
Oh, Date Night?
Oh, Date Night, yeah. That was kind of cartoony itself, but I want him to really be a villain in a comic book movie, and I'm not talking a kids, Spy Kids movie. I want, some subtle rated R. I'm like Riddler and freaking Robert Pattinson's Batman type of role. Or how did he not get the call for Two-Face? It's perfect casting.
You know who I want to see in a kids movie? Benicio del Toro.
Hello, did you not see Dora the Explorer, the movie, or Dora the Explorer in the Lost City of Gold? He was the voice of the monkey.
Well, we need him physically in a kids movie.
Last Jedi?
Oh.
It wasn't for adults. That's all I'm going to say about that. Look, Benicio del Toro at this point, I'm sure would, if the check was right. I want to see him in more movies in general. And I would say he could have played this role in this movie, but the problem would have been, he was probably too young at the time. But anyway, if you saw him play this type of role, you'd know from the first minute on screen, that dude's crazy. So, I think it worked, because with Ray Liotta, now you look at him and you can tell, first minute, Ray Liotta is crazy. But back then, you could believe, like, I could see him as the good guy or the bad guy, especially coming off of Goodfellas. And, look, he was an escaped prisoner, action hero, and no escape.
Yeah, and he also did that movie with Whoopi Goldberg. Awkward.
Which movie was this one?
Was it a Karina, I think it was. The one where she's like the housekeeper.
Oh, hey, that was that nice civil rights movie, where he played a devoted dad. And
Whoopi Goldberg, ugh, I want to vomit in my mouth.
It was the 90s, man. A lot of weird shit happened in the 90s. Hello, Theodore Rex with Whoopi Goldberg, okay?
Can we also mention that the producer of the current Star Wars movies also produced the movie Milk Money with Melanie Griffith? That tells you why the franchise is.
You just gotta bring up Milk Money, don't you?
That would be the next.
You just gotta bring up Milk Money, man. Oh, hell no, it won't. I'm not watching that again. It was bad enough I watched it the first time. And the worst part was the first time I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Hey, Melanie Griffith has talent. Not Anne Heche. Or why is Ed Harris in this movie?
He was under contract.
It's one of those movies. It's one of those movies where it's like, how the hell did you get this cast? It's like the names we're using, you expect for like, oh, this was this great lost gem from the 90s. And it's like, no, it's a kid's movie about some kids who want to see boobies. Then it turns into a romance.
We got a lot of odd shit back then.
Hey, it's no crazy in Alabama. with Melanie Griffith, directed by Antonio Banderas, who knows so much about racism in the 1960s in the South. So, I don't know. Melanie Griffith just stayed in that career trajectory. She's somebody whose career I'd like to talk about, and Whoopi Goldberg's, just not in the same breath. But anyway, we should really get back to Lawful Entry.
Yeah.
Instead of like going off on these weird tirades. But essentially, it's entertaining. It's like a B movie, you know, like it's entertaining for what it is. But don't go in there expecting like, oh, this is like great, you know, like, or this is that undiscovered gem. Though with this, I don't know, maybe the next generation will praise this, like some movie we bypass and like, oh yeah, I remember that movie, it was okay. And the next generation will be like, this was the peak of those types of movies. You know, I still say, you know, there's much discussed in Pacific Heights, but yeah, this one was the one that was the most money earner next to The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Yeah, which was the bigger deal back then too.
Well, I think it was more of a bigger deal because, again, speaking of comebacks, Rebecca De Mornay, where have you been in risky business? You know? And, I mean,
enough,
it's this quiet, quaint Connecticut.
Ernie Hudson a bigger star than Ghostbusters.
I think it was also one of the few movies Annabella she was in that was a really big hit. You know, a lot of people forget she's even in that movie. And it also helped make Julianne Moore's career. And
yes,
yeah, you know, I like them both. One is more subtle, one is more over the top, but essentially what comes at the end of this conversation is, Madeline Stowe, come back, do more work, and you know,
we love you,
because
Madeline
Ray
Stowe.
Liotta's still working, Kurt Russell's still working. I don't know if is Roger E. Mosley still working?
Not as much as he used to.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him in something. Hey, everybody's in Coming to America too. Why not Roger E. Mosley? He could have played like John Amos's brother or something. So, hey, I smell a spinoff right there. I just pitched that. The McDowell brothers. You know, old like man blaxploitation. This is the movie. Or it could be like a grumpy old man. I'm like, I'd say this will be better than Original Gangsters.
Universe building.
Exactly. That's what they're all trying to do today. Eddie Murphy, we just need a cameo. This won't go the way of Coming to America, the series that only made it past the pilot. And is that available still on YouTube?
Yes, it's still up. Last I checked.
Up with Tommy Davidson in the lead. And I forget the other guy from Coming to America, the one who sang.
Paul Bates.
Yes, him playing the same character who goes with Prince Hakeem to live with an American family. And I'm just like, The sad part, I saw that pilot when it originally aired on CBS. Interesting how we get into other subjects talking about unlawful entry.
It's a hodgepodge. We just can't help ourselves. And
See,
we've been
folks,
quarantined, so you know we haven't been able to bar hop in a long time.
Exactly. It's like, see, folks, you come from unlawful entry, you get all these other film effects. So I think, do you have anything more to say about unlawful entry? Any points? Any things you want to bring up?
That's it. I mean, the only other thing I would say is I didn't believe the friendship between Kurt Russell and the Jewish lawyer that you see in every movie. I didn't believe they were friends.
It's as believable as Richard Gere and Jason Alexander being friends in Pretty Woman.
Yeah, but Jason Alexander tries to like fuck him over.
I'm talking about believability here. I'm saying there's no chemistry. You know, and at least, you know, the guy playing the lawyer didn't have to wear a hairpiece. Sorry, low blow, Jason Costanza. And I still love you. George Costanza's the shit. I really can't think of anything else about the movie except the biggest victim in all of this movie is Roger E. Mosley.
Yeah, sadly.
Yes, at least the only thing he needed to tell Kurt Russell was, "Man, you bringing this to me when I only got 2 weeks till retirement." So we know his fate already.
But seriously, if Kurt Russell or Ray Liotta, or if anybody worked in this movie, can email me and explain the backstory of Ray Liotta's character, please contact me. I would want to know, just for my own sanity.
And I want to know how Ray Liotta didn't think Kurt Russell would put up a fight when Kurt Russell, for a yuppie, is kind of built in this movie. You know.
Come on, he did his own love scene with Marilyn Stowe, and they improvised that. That tells you Kurt Russell is the man.
Hey, Kurt Russell has always been the man. And I've watched some bad Kurt Russell movies, Soldier. But, you know, he's always come to Escape from LA. But he's always it'd be like, yes, I'm sorry if we're kicking you while you're down, but we love you, Kurt Russell. We love all your movies. Okay, that one I'm not a fan of. What I am sorry. I know everybody else loves it, but I'm just like, okay. I'll be like, Tombstone, you're the man. And even if
just get one more John Carpenter movie in before Carpenter croaks, please.
Considering Carpenter's last film, I don't know if I want John Carpenter.
Or at least give us a commentary of Escape from LA, and we're good. Then we get all the Kurt Russell, John Carpenter commentary tracks.
That I would support, and I'd even be willing to sit through that film again. That's a movie we definitely got to tackle on a future episode, because
hell yeah,
that's a wild ride in of itself. But I think this episode is coming to a close, unless you want to build a universe more of talking about other films this film reminds us of.
Well, it's technically a Disney movie now, so that's all I'm going to say.
This was Kurt Russell before Guardians of the Galaxy 2, his character, one of his roles. I'm here just to impregnate women, man. And you got me all caught up in this drama, Ray Liotta. If I could use my supernatural powers.
That legitimately creeped me out in the theater when I saw that part.
I'm like, look, man.
Kurt Russell, Unlawful Entry.
Hey, Kurt Russell is a lover, not a fighter, man. Until you see like something like The Hateful Eight. But like I said, Madeline Stowe, please come back to us in good films. You know, hey, I've been a fan since Worth Winning with Mark Harmon.
Well, I think that's our business for today, Jeff.
Oh, no. But as you know, our business is always unfinished.
Indeed.
So I guess we will have to say bye for now. This is a special episode. No plugging, no advertising. That was in the other show. And so until next time, folks, we will see you again with not only movie news, but another special episode of whatever movie we decide to single out for next time.
And we bid you adieu.